Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back to tell you about 10 books that I really want to get to over the spooky season. Now, I have been talking a lot about how I would like to get back into sort of reading by whim and finding out what kind of reader I am. And one thing I have always loved is a good spooky tale. Now, I'm not necessarily saying horror. I don't think I've read it enough, but I would like to try more. But I definitely love stuff around the supernatural, like I've always been a fan of tales around witches and vampires and all those kind of things, probably because I loved Arthur Conan Doyle from an early age, and also like The Witches of Whitby by Robin Jarvis. And my granddad used to write books about a witch called Esmeralda who had a cat called Marmalade who was friends with a boy called Simon. Can you see what he was doing there? Brilliant. So I've always loved the witchy and the spooky, and I don't know if it's because I grew up in a house that was kind of surrounded by trees. That could be part of it as well, maybe. But in getting back to kind of finding what sort of reader I am, I was thinking these are the sort of books, gothic, spooky, creepy, thrills and chills, that also I just really love to read. And I think sometimes we can forget the power of just enjoying a bloody good book. So I have 10 here. As always, I'll probably change my mind and I'm not making this an official TBR, even though the video is going to say it's a TBR, but there we go. That's the closest thing I could think of to getting to it. But definitely ones that I really, really want to try to get to. And I should say for me, spooky season sort of starts about now, sort of mid-October, early-ish mid-October. Can you have an early mid anything? I don't know. But sort of around early to mid-October until Christmas, and possibly actually a little bit into New Year. And I was thinking about this and wondering whether it's true, but a lot of ghost stories are set on Christmas Eve, so I think therefore I'm correct. And also I've discovered recently that in Wales they have a night where they celebrate the spirits before Halloween, because it's something that I'm going to, and I think maybe will bring up a possible spooky themed reading vlog at some point. Anyway, I've talked for 2 minutes, I've not held up a blinking book, and I need to get cracking, so I've got 10 to talk about. So this video was kind of inspired by this particular book because it's one that I've been meaning to read for ages, and I always find it really sad that an author's death will remind you that you really wanted to read something that they've written. And I've had Beyond Black by Hilary Mantel on my shelves for so long. I adore this cover, and actually I saw Kate Mosse in her latest Mosse on Monday. I'll link her channel down below. She's the founder of the Women's Prize and author and just general wonderful woman. She has a YouTube channel where the first Monday of every month she talks about 4 books, 2 fiction, 2 non-fiction that she loves, and she talks about this. And I was like, yes, I really, really need to read this, and actually this is kind of the perfect time. I believe it's about Alison, who is a psychic, and as we get to know her, we start to see that it's not the ghosts and stuff that she talks to that the most terrifying thing in her life. I'm really intrigued for it, really excited for it. I have had it on my shelves for a ridiculous amount of time. You can tell because it started to go like a bit brown and stuff on the bottom, which I don't actually mind considering how, I think a lot of people think I like my bookshelves to be pristine. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm really, really, really excited for this one. I've heard it's chilling, creeping, blah, 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 it's not that. It's chilling, creepy, and endlessly inventive. And yeah, so I have a feeling I might pack this with me to read when I go to London next week for the Booker party. Then a book that I have, again, been meaning to read for ages, and I can't remember whether it was Jen who talked about this recently. I feel like it was when she was recommending sort of autumnal books, or was it Mercedes? It could have been either or. They're both like legends. So anyway, a recommendation from them is fab. It's White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. And Helen Oyemi is an author who I have collected pretty much all of their books and not read a single one. And I feel like this could be the first. And actually, that's going to be the kind of... I started a book club on Patreon, and we're reading Vera by Elizabeth von Arnhem at the beginning of November, but they're going to be voting out of 4 books for December by an author who I have bought like literally nearly all the books of but haven't read yet. So I think this might be one of the books that they can vote for, or you can if you are a patron, or if you want to be a patron, it's always linked down below. But yeah, so I'm intrigued for this. I believe it's kind of a bit of a riff on the haunted house trope, and because I think the house becomes kind of a dark character within the book. And speaking of haunted house books, Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt I've been wanting to read for ages too, and Come on, Simon, get to it. I believe this is a queer haunted house tale. It says, cutting, descriptive and darkly funny, Tell Me I'm Worthless is a vital work of trans horror that confronts both supernatural and real-world terrors. It examines the devastating effects of trauma and the way fascism makes us destroy ourselves and each other. And I think this is about a group of friends who went to a haunted house, and maybe one of them didn't come out, and then they go back later in sort of adult years. So I'm intrigued, very intrigued to find out what happened in that house. And yeah, I'm excited for it. I also think that cover is really subtly unsettling, which I think is brilliant. Then, I don't think this is going to be spooky or creepy necessarily, but I think it's going to use a supernatural trope to look at what it's like to be a woman of colour in Britain today, and that is Woman Eating by Coda, which is all about a vampire. And she is trying really hard not to, drink human blood, and so we follow her as that goes on. And it's got great quotes from Ruth Zeki, who I recently did a video for Sky Arts Book Club. And actually, speaking of that, if you want to know what some of my favourite spooky books are of all time, then tomorrow there will be a new video, a new Sky Arts Book Club extra, where I'm talking about that very thing. It's always linked down below. Do go and check it out and join the group if you can, because the more of you that join, the more likely we're to get a series 4. And I would love that, because it's my favourite job in the world, and I keep saying that, but it's true. So anyway, Woman Eating, yeah, I'm really keen to get to this. I have the international copy of it as well, which is one of those ones where there seems to be this real run at the moment of sort of gothic covered, gothic paintings on the covers of books, and I am so excited. I'm going too fast. Come on, Simon, take those chills and chill. I'm really here for it. I really like that whole gothic painting cover on books. Anyway, there we go. Woman Eating by Coda. Then we have Black Mamba by William Friend. And on the back, all it says is, Daddy, there's a man in our room. And that is enough to properly send, and considering it's quite bright outside, it gave me a chill then. I'm really intrigued for this one. I think it looks at grief and what happens to a family after the death of the mother of the household, I believe, and how the children and her husband and their father respond to that. And that makes me think a little bit of Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter, which I blinking loved. But this is, and that's supernatural in a way. Well, it's got that creepy crow in it, so of course it's got that kind of supernatural feel to it. But yeah, this to me is kind of taking it and making that sort of situation all the darker with this man who's appearing in their room. Sinister. Then I think this ghostly tale is going to be both gorgeously gothic and just kind of, I don't know, this book just gives me a bit of a feel. I don't know what that is, but it's a feel. Do you ever get that with a book? Not quite a book tingle, that's when you start reading a book for me. When you start reading a book and like the first chapter just gives you all the tingles and you're like, I am about to go on an epically brilliant bookish journey right now, whatever the subject matter. Anyway, this is a ghostly tale. It's Briefly a Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. And this is all about, I want to get this right, it's when Chopin and George Sand and her children travel to a monastery in Mallorca in 1838. And there is a ghost of is it a nun? But it's a teenage girl who basically worked at the monastery, and her ghost is there, and she falls in love with George Sands, who sounds like a member, is a woman. And so it's kind of got this sapphic supernatural twist to it, and I just think it's going to be blinking brilliant. And I'm kind of cross with myself for not having read it earlier. And what I really want to do in 2023 is let go of this kind of, I should only read gothic books in the autumn. It is when they are at their best, I won't lie, and winter, but also just like all throughout the year, because I think this could be a favourite, and I think I'm going to be I mean, there's part of you, isn't there, with a book like that, where you're like, I feel cheated that I haven't read it sooner, because I bet I'm going to blink and love it, and I would have loved it. But then also there's that kind of like, I've saved it and I'm really excited for it. But I save far too many books for rainy days, and it rains all the time, so what am I doing? Then some short stories, the first of which is Leon Craig's Parallel Hells, and this is described by Kirsty Logan as if you want to read trust me, you want to read this. It's the queer horror book of your dreams. And I'm really, really intrigued for this one. And I have banged on recently about how I want to read more short stories that I own and get through more collections and everything, and just haven't really been doing it. So I need to crack on. Oh, excuse me, stray hair, move out of the way, thank you. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to this one, as I am this anthology, which is The Haunting Season, Ghostly Tales for Long Winter Nights. And this has Kieran Millward Hargrave and Jess Kidd and Elizabeth McNeil, who are three of my favourite authors and people that I adore too. Plus Andrew Michael Hurley, who writes brilliantly, and Laura Purcell, who is kind of the queen of the ghost story. I've only read one of Laura Purcell's books, and it wasn't as spooky as I wanted. It was much more historical gothic, which was fab. But I think in my head I was like, oh, I've just spotted the gold on that. Honestly, that was an absolute squirrel moment. But yeah. But I have The Silent Companions of hers, which is really, really, really meant to be creepy. So maybe that's one that I should head to too. Also, look at that. I mean, that is just like autumnal and joyous. And then let's get transfixed by that gold again, shall we? Yes, let's. Then we have another author, and this may be another book that my Patreon book club get to vote for as a pick, because I have all of this author's books and I have not read a single one. And actually my mum recently read, I think it was this one, and really, really loved it. So that's what made me think of it, because I saw her talking about it on her channel. It's The Last House. Oh, get ready for it. The Last House. That's really good as well, isn't it? Because like spookily, it's there and it's not, and then it's there and then it's not, and it's blood red, and anyway, it's The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. And I think this is about there's either like a disappearance of a young girl in the forest, or am I getting that confused with Carol Birch's book? Let me just check on that one. Oh, I didn't realise this was signed. It's signed, how lovely. Ted lives in the last house on Needless Street at the edge of a wild forest. His only company, a disapproving cat and his 11-year-old daughter, Lauren. When Ted gets confused, he calls them both kitten. Ted has always been strange, but he's becoming stranger. He sets up false online dating profiles, comes home late with a sense of bone and fear in his hands, and spends nights in the forest digging amongst the paper birches. Then a mysterious woman who believes Ted had something to do with her younger sister's disappearance when they were children moves into the abandoned house next door, and when Lauren goes missing, suspicion turns to terror. So I was right, it was about disappearances, which maybe is what that cover alludes to. I see what you have done, Viper. But yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for this one. And last but not least, and I would really, really like to read this spooky season. I'm thinking this might be perfect for actually, I'm going away off-grid in Wales in November with, I've hired this barn for my mum's birthday, so we're going to be doing lots of reading then with like fires and stuff, and maybe that is the time, because we'll have like 5 days, for me to get this chunkster out, which is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enrique, and this is translated from the Spanish, I believe, by Megan McDowell. And I started reading some of Mariana's short stories earlier this year and just wasn't quite in the mood, but I certainly am now, and this I just think is amazing. I do have a proof where if you do that, like a hand appears out of the claws, and I believe this is about a young man whose father can talk to demons and the dead and can kind of control them, and people want that power, and it might be that his power is waning and his son is going to get... I feel like it's one of those sort of epics, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for this one. Oh, it's also got really nice big font. And yeah, I've got a feeling I'm going to absolutely love it. I mean, I can barely hold it because it's so big, but it's an unsettling. Yeah, I'm really, really, really excited for it, and I think it's going to be an absolute gothic delight. I would love you to recommend me any spooky books. Are there any authors particularly that I should head to? Should I be heading to like Grady Hendrix? I think that's right. Which other, I'd love to know actually, because it's something I've been thinking about doing, which sort of literary, if you will, authors like Hilary Mantel have written sort of which other authors apart from Hilary Mantel, but literary authors, why am I overthinking that one? But are there any others like Hilary Mantel who've written literary fiction and also literary sort of ghostly tales? Because I think that would be something to kind of take me on into the spring as well. And also I'm aware that that is a pretty white list, and I would really, really, really like to know of some authors of colour who have written some absolutely stonking ghostly tales, horror tales, spooky tales, or just literary tales with a supernatural twist. Let me know all of those in the comments down below too. I really appreciate that. I'll be back, I think, with my Booker shortlist vlog on Sunday, and also on Sunday on my mum's channel will be our live choosing our order of shortlist to winner for the Booker, and then it will be the Booker on Monday, and I'm very excited. I'm going to be there. I can't believe it. I'm going to be on Bernardine Evaristo's table, which is very exciting. So anyway, there we go. That is that. And yeah, let me know, like I said, any spooky horror, or because horror, again, I'd like to dip my toe into, but I don't know it too well, although is something going to come out and bite my toe off? I don't know. But yeah, I'd like all of that, and any authors like Hilary Mantel who've written books with a spooky sort of twist. Let me know that in the comments down below. And if you're wondering why, like, Juno Dawson or anybody like that isn't in this selection, it's books that I've not read yet. So obviously there are a lot of spooky books that I've read because I like that as a sort of genre. I'm really waffling now. I've done really well. It was quite a short video until this point, but I hope you're all doing super duper well, supernaturally well, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Bye.